Hey guys, I just made a video a few minutes ago and wasn't planning on one for the rest of the day, but a subscriber who I would call my friend, even though I haven't met him in a while, sent me some disturbing information, and I prayed about it, and I feel like the Lord wants me to share this. So probably get some more people mad and some more people unsubscribe, but the truth is the truth, and it's got to be shared. So April 3rd, like 2 days ago, a man named Gary Hermish, who identifies himself as a rad trad, shot and killed Father Carasella in Seneca, Kansas. This is very disturbing, but it's not surprising. I'm going to read you some letters he wrote to the local newspaper. I think it's the Kansas Tribune. It's all public. You could find this very easily, and you'll see where his mindset was, and I can tell you why I'm not surprised, even though I'm very disturbed. So he writes in a letter dated 2/6, and then a letter dated 8/4/21, saying letters 2/6 dated 8/4/21. Then along comes Vatican II, and I'm just taking excerpts. There's a lot of stuff. Then along comes Vatican II, and pretty soon Pope Paul VI, actually it's Pope St. Paul VI, declares, "Are you looking for God? You will find him in man." So he instructs the priest to turn all around, that instead of facing the altar, faces the people, so as to be facing God. The ordination rite to the priest was then changed, probably making it invalid, because they don't want God on the altar anymore anyway, and not to mention that a validly ordained priesthood might imply, God forbid, inequality. So then the rock star Pope, JP2, actually Pope Saint John Paul II, who some say, I'm reading his words, who some say was actually, in fact, literally the Antichrist in the flesh. I know Marcel Lefebvre called him the Antichrist. I don't know. I know a lot of the rad trads hate him, but he's the only one I've heard call him the Antichrist. Comes next, and evidently it was him that came up with the idea. How about making a personal journey to find God? Maybe that'll work. Then on 12/14/22, he writes, the infiltration. Where have you heard this? The subversion at the Vatican was already fomenting beneath the surface as far back as the 1930s and 40s. Vatican II was called just to seal the deal. And then the note says he recommends a book at the Sole Provider bookstore. I wonder what book that was. And then he writes this: in my opinion, what we are seeing is just the fruits of the new Novus Ordo Mass and the civilization of love Pope Paul VI claimed to be creating. Again, Pope St. Paul VI. And that was dated April 5th, 2023. That's kind of the problem with the fake Catholic Church. They don't have any faith and don't believe anything, really. So you see all these quotes. You've heard people on YouTube making these false claims about the Catholic Church, and they're just bombarding people, and simple-minded people take that and they act irrationally. We've seen this with Trump, where the left constantly dehumanized him, made him to be like Hitler, and these people felt justified to try and kill him, and they nearly did. 2 assassination attempts that we know about, and they're doing the same thing to our Catholic priests, our bishops, and our Pope. But they're the infiltrators. They're the ones on the inside calling themselves good Catholics. And you hear Kennedy Hall make a video. He would rather die than participate in the Novus Order, because he belongs to a cult called the SSPX that says the Novus Order Mass, the new Mass, the ordinary Mass that 95% of us go to, is intrinsically evil. Nothing good about it. Evil can be redeemed. Something intrinsically evil cannot be redeemed. And these are popular guys on YouTube. And then you hear them talking about Pope St. John Paul II. I heard Taylor Marshall say on one of his videos, JP2 isn't a saint because of his holiness and because he stopped communism. He's a saint only because Pope Francis, wanted to canonize Vatican II. So again, another little dig to Vatican II and dig to this great Pope, Saint JP2. And these are popular guys, way more popular than me. I mean, granted, they're better speakers and better educated, but they're preaching lies and slanders against the church. And Jesus said in the last days, people will want to get their ears tickled. And negativity sells a lot more than positivity. And when someone like me says, I love the church, I love the Pope, people don't want to hear that. They'd rather hear lies. And I'm not surprised that someone would kill a pope, kill a priest. When you had Father James Altman live on YouTube with a demonic smile saying the best thing we could do as Catholics is put a millstone around Pope Francis's neck. Oh no, he didn't. He said Bergoglio. He doesn't believe he's a pope. He's full set of acanthus now. Put a millstone around his neck and throw him into the river. And you know, it may sound bad, but just think, if we kill him, how many souls we prevent from going to hell. So this is our justification for violence. And I always say on this channel, these rad trads are just like the left. The left uses these tactics. They'll claim you're what they are. They claim Trump is a Nazi. When it was Biden forcing all these social media companies to censor us conservatives, forcing everybody, if he had his way, to take a jab that people didn't want. You know, the left is always lying. These guys lie. Catch these guys in lives, and I make YouTube videos, and people get mad at me like, "Oh, that's calumny to me." I'm like, no, calumny is when you lie about someone, what they're doing. I'm exposing they're lying about the Pope. They're lying about the church. And what other tactic do they do? They project what they are onto you. Rules for Radical. Saul Alinsky says, accuse your opponent of what you do. So they accuse the ordinary Catholics of being modernists, and they're traditional. That's what RAD-TRAD stands for. Radical traditionalists. They really love tradition. There is nowhere in tradition do you see any saints bashing the Pope and the Magisterium the way these people do publicly. In fact, I just did a video about canceled priests maybe 20 minutes ago, and I quoted the most radical traditional Catholic that I know, St. Padre Pio. And he's the exact opposite of what Rad-Trad's considered traditional and radical. He was traditional. He was radical. And the Pope that they all love, who spoke against modernism, they twist what modernism is. I read the letter. He described them when Pope Pius VI, when Pope St. Pius X wrote a letter to his priest warning about modernism. He described the rad-trads on YouTube today. So that's another tactic of the left. But they finally use the ultimate tactic of the left. When they can't shut us up, they shoot us. They kill us. And that's what this man did, thinking he was doing it for God. Because in his own words, this is a fake church. These guys are subverting the truth. So I'm saying, this got to stop. You got to stop giving views to these people that are bashing our church. You got to stop giving views to the people that are speaking hateful. I did a video a while back. I'm not going to read the whole thing again, but read the fruits of the Spirit and the fruits of the flesh. Don't watch guys and don't contribute to guys that are feeding your flesh, that are getting you angry. And I'm just going to read you a couple short verses. 1 Samuel 15. I was going to read just 15:23, but I'm going to read 22 and 23. And Samuel said, "Has the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to listen than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of divination." Rebellion is the sin of divination. It's demonic. It's the sin of demons. And we see that rebellion when Satan tried to overtake heaven. He rebelled. He disobeyed God. You see that first sin of rebellion when Adam and Eve disobeyed God and rebelled. This is why obedience is very important as Christians. As Catholic Christians, to obey is better than sacrifice. And then Sometimes it's confusing because you're like, this guy seems like such a holy man, such a holy priest, such a holy YouTuber. 2 Corinthians chapter 11, 13 through 15 says this. For such men are false apostles, deceitful workmen, disguising themselves as apostles of Christ. And no wonder, for even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. So it is not strange if his servants also disguise themselves as servants of righteousness. Their end will correspond to their deeds. So again, like I said in the last video, it's not who's right that matters, it's what's right. You might love someone dearly, but if they're stirring up anger and hate towards our church, when I say our church, I mean our Pope and our magisterium, it's from the devil. It's rebellion. It's divination. It's demonic. Shut them down. Pray for them. If you're friends with them, try and counsel them and bring them to repentance. But don't contribute to this hate. Don't contribute to the murder of a Catholic priest. God bless and stay Catholic.